Disney just a couple of years ago said it couldn't film in Georgia, in the state of Georgia, if they passed a new anti-abortion statute. Yet they just filmed Mulan last year in the Xinjiang province of China, which is literally ground zero, the epicenter of the Uyghur human rights crisis. And they didn't just film there. They went further. They said, we thank the local government. They thanked the CCP for allowing them to film there. That's Disney.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Real Talk Corner. I am your host, Ariana Quantum Healer, the Quantum Healer, with my co-host, Sabrina Williams, in the building. We're back. I know we took a couple days off, y'all. Don't kill us. You know, it is what it is. But tonight we are going to jump in it. It's that time. It's election time. So, we talk about it. Don't talk about it, be about it, get involved. And so we're definitely going to be covering a lot of the presidential candidates, what they're about, especially if I find and we're watching clips and the arguments and all of that good stuff so that you guys can get to know them more. I am going to cover, we got to do one on, I think her name is Miriam Williamson. And I think she's one of the women. She's not the woman. I don't think she's Republican. Honestly, I got to look because she actually has some really good points. And she was holding herself up in this one show meeting that I saw, and they were just like coming at her, but she was holding her own. And I was like, all right, she holding her own. So she might get my vote. I don't know. We'll see. So I definitely feel like we should cover this because it's important. It's coming up, the 2024 elections. You need to get to know your people that are running for president, you guys. If you don't already, if you have somebody that you're already looking at, drop a comment. I don't want to hear that Trump shit just yet, okay? If you have not done your research, I could see in 6 months, if you still love Trump, then good, do whatever. But if you just still voting for Trump because you want to vote for Trump, I would say take a look at some of the other candidates, and we're going to talk about it and show you guys also, just so you could get like a feel. But right now we're going to get into on the Breakfast Club. La 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 la. Why can't I say that today? Like, what the hell? Breakfast Club. They did an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy is his name. He's an American entrepreneur. He was actually born here in America. And he is a candidate. He's from the Republican Party. He's 37, so he's pretty young. And, most of our presidents are normally way older than 37. I don't mind having a young president because you see Biden, he did his terms as vice president and he got into the presidential, and now he done lost his damn mind and got senile and shit.
Basically.
So I don't care about someone being fucking old as shit, old as dirt to run the country. Like, I don't think your age really just says that you're more wise, So I wouldn't mind a younger candidate. And so he was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. I believe he also grew up there. Graduated from Harvard and Yale Law School. He's an entrepreneur. He runs businesses. It's crazy because I didn't even know that who knows? Who really researches the people who create drugs? Because I don't fucking research anyone. So he's actually created some medications that help children, life-saving medications. So, he's done some shit for the world, did he get rich off of it? Yes, but who fucking wouldn't? So we're gonna watch his interview and see how that goes, and we'll comment on it because, like I said before, the clips that I saw on it weren't really nice, y'all. They weren't really nice. So you have anyone yet that you're looking at that might be your who you're voting for this year or this round? Yeah.
No, not at all.
I haven't really I haven't really, you guys picked somebody just yet. So,
do you want to unite the country?
I do want to unite the country.
So why is like one of your marquee campaign proposals making sure Black people can no longer benefit from affirmative action?
See, here's the thing. It's actually been a disastrous experiment over the last 60 years. I've seen the impact that it's had. Unlike a lot of other executives, I've had senior executives in my company who happen to be Black, senior executives in my campaign who happen to be Black. I actually went to a majority or close to majority Black school 1st through 8th grade. There isn't a single one of those Black kids or Black colleagues that could not have achieved everything I have in my life. I firmly believe that to be true. And I have seen the unfair discrimination behind closed doors, the things that people will say behind closed doors, about somebody who would have had that position anyway, but was unfairly tarred with the taint of saying they got it because of a race-based quota system. I think that's unjust to everyone across the board. And I think that the right way to do this is actually ensure equality of opportunity, educational access at an early age, which, by the way, we don't have in this country, starting at an actual young age. How about doing that in a way that's agnostic to race? That way we prevent seeing one another on the basis of a color of our skin, but we actually solve the real inequalities that we have when it starts with inequality of opportunity, starting with education. So my view is, I think my approach is actually going to be more successful in lifting up more Black Americans than have been the Lyndon Johnson approach of actually using race-based quota systems.
So if the Supreme Court does rule on affirmative action and they do ban it, who do you feel it benefits versus who it hurts?
I think that it helps everyone if they end race-based affirmative action in college admissions. I think it will literally help everyone in different ways because it restores merit in the United States. Are we perfect in ensuring equality of opportunity? No, we're not. The fact that kids are trapped by the zip code in which they're born, determining where they go to school, is a problem, which is why I favor universal school choice in this country, which has actually done more to help Black Americans than has any affirmative action program.
What's your thoughts on people saying that you got Don Lemon fired?
It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong. Wow.
What part of the history was wrong?
What part of the history was wrong? That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for Black people, only for Black people to get guns and for Black people to
The Civil War was fought for Black people in this country to get freedoms, a noble mission. And I think that even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA, to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that Black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for the Civil War.
It is a fact.
That's reductive.
It's not
and
reductive.
I think it's insulting. There are a whole plethora of reasons that for the Civil War.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to Black Americans, to say that Black people today, compared to 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was part of what secured that freedom.
I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second.
Oh, no. I'm getting confused and I'm getting bamboozled.
Getting a little hot in there.
I say feeling of bamboozled by all of these facts. They can't talk in your ear. You can't tell the people that because homeboy light you up like a candlestick. Light you up with facts. They cannot stand to think that Black people could be liberated with truth and facts. But see, the Black man on the panel has to be the one that try to keep Black people down and tell you that the Civil War wasn't fought for your freedoms because they need you to hate the country. Just listen to the man spitting facts.
So to say that Black people, say what you said again.
Black people
say what you said again. You heard what he said, bro.
Secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They were not secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not. You are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because Black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to happen.
And you know how they got it? They got their Second Amendment rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today, down the
NRA did not play a big role.
Absolutely, they trained Black Americans how to use firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role.
This is just historical fact.
It's not a historical fact.
The part that I find,
because you say it's historical fact.
The part that I find insulting is when you say today Black Americans don't have those rights after we have gone through civil rights revolution in this country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every.
Man, I'm black, and Vivek is telling the truth, bro. Quit pulling that card. I'm black, and I know he's telling the truth.
Black again?
Day.
Here's where you and I have a different point of
black
view.
and white that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless.
I think that the New York Times reported that. I had an open debate with Don Lemon with this. What CNN wanted to do with that is their choice. My view is, though, we need to start saying in public the things that people are otherwise saying in private. There's a gap right now in the country. Let's admit it. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter.
Be careful with that, because a lot of people in your party are going to start saying nigga out loud.
I don't think so, actually. And I would certainly hope not. I would condemn it if they do. I would condemn it if anybody does. All right. But what I think is we need to close the gap between what people say in private and what they say in public. That allows us to err on.
Affirmative action actually helps us as minorities. And it doesn't. It doesn't ensure that you get a job. It doesn't ensure that you get a place. Affirmative action was good when they got put in place back then, when you had the racist campus and all that. But by today's standards, if people are racist, they're going to be racist regardless to affirmative action. The only thing is, a lot of these businesses now in schools have to fill quotas to make sure they have so many blacks, so many Hispanics, so many others. So like you're saying, wouldn't you rather know that you earned this shit, that you weren't just part of a quota that they had to fill? But you see more black people and more minorities that don't want that. Why? Because you got to actually work for it? Because you got to actually get your ass up, do the shit, put in the time, put in the effort. And
but even with that, I mean, he's a brown person, so that affects him. That he's not, you know what I mean? Right. He's not saying this because, like, and I agree with that totally. Like, I agree with him with that. Wouldn't you want to earn it? And now, because just to be honest, now they put somebody in because they're trying to, meet a quota, and that person is not qualified for that position or qualified to, their grades are not up to par to be in that college, and it becomes overwhelming, and they turn to drugs, or they, commit suicide, and because technically they were not built for that, but they got in due to the fact they were a black or brown person.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you okay with that? I'm not okay with that.
I say this because when a lot of people who don't know me, they see me, they just think I'm this white lady talking shit out of my ass, right? But I will say, one of the biggest arguments that me and my daughter's father used to have is because he was programmed in his mind to think that the white man was against him. And so everything that happened in his life was the white man's problem, right? But he could not keep a job. It wasn't the white man that couldn't keep a job. It was him. He couldn't go. He was missing days, didn't get there on time. When he wanted to be lazy, didn't get up to go to work. And every time he lost a job, they would say, man, we love you, but you just don't make it here. You don't come. We can't keep you. And it would piss me off with him because his constant excuse for not having a job or keeping a job and going back to the drug gang was that it's the white man holding him down. And I used to fucking cuss him out. Like, do you not see that you are the fucking problem? Your employers actually tell you while they're firing you, we wish we could keep you if you would bring your ass to fucking work.
Right. I mean, they have to follow things also. Why have an employee that never shows up? We need someone to do the work.
Like, it doesn't work like that, you guys. You can't say that the system is against you, but you're not willing to play the game. Mm-hmm. This man, even though he's Indian, he's brown skinned, I guarantee this motherfucker worked his ass off. You think going to Harvard is easy? You think fucking that I'm in college right now and it's driving me crazy. I'm in community college and this shit is crazy right now, trying to get my degree. You think that shit is easy? Build a fucking company? You think building a company is easy? Mm-hmm. Anyone who's running a company, even if you're doing it from the very beginning, you know how much work goes into this shit. Mm-hmm. That's not easy. And to make it like a big ass company, a corporate company where you're running, where you're making that is not easy shit. And just like you said, he's like, we all do have the same thing, but your programming in your mind is going to be what stops you. Because you're going to be, the white man's not going to
worried
let
about,
you go. Oh, I can't get that job because.
But you know what? That's always been our problem, and that's going to always be our problem.
Right.
We are our problem.
Right.
We are, until we actually take accountability and say we are. Whenever, like you said, whenever something happens, like even prime example, like with your kid's dad, he got himself terminated. Right. By not showing up to work, by not be, you know what I mean? It wasn't that, he was black, so we're gonna fire you because you black.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was you not showing up to work, and we need someone here to do the work.
Right.
Like we are always in our we really make it so much harder on ourselves.
Right. Right. And he went light skin, y'all. He black. He dark. Dark skin. But it is. And I do cringe because that's a lot of the conversation and goes straight to racism, somebody holding you down. And a lot of people don't realize just how lazy they are, though. And we talked about the laziness in the community because government aid and government programs and shit like that has made our communities lazy as fuck. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to put the time in. Yet you think having affirmative action actually benefits us as communities. It fucking doesn't. It does nothing for us. If a motherfucker wants to be racist and still not hire you, yes, they can still do that. Why do you think they have studies on resumes where if you have a black name or some crazy name versus versus John Smith resume gets called in because people are still fucking racist, even
and that's been around for years. That's been going on for years. To this day, that's still going on.
It doesn't help us. And I feel like if you really want something, you're going to put more time and effort. But this is the problem, the programming, the mind of everyone who comes from the hood, the communities, these backwards ass communities that say everyone's holding them back but themselves. And if you guys really want to change, you're going to get in that community and you're going to start making the change. But everybody that you see makes it leaves the community. They don't stay.
Mm-hmm.
They don't fucking build a house on the corner and start changing the community. Them motherfuckers leave. They leave and don't look back.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why is that? Because of shit like this. You'll have people that will tear you down. Your own people will fucking tear you down. That's not even his own people in a sense because he's Indian and they're black. But it's still, you're my fellow American.
It's the same. I mean, we all know when it comes to white people, you either white or you're black or whatever else. You're black, you're gonna fall under. He's brown, so I'm sure he deals with a lot of racism.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's been in many meetings where they're like, discriminating against him because he's Indian until his money is matching their money. So he has just as much as they do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So now they want to listen. Now they're willing to listen. But if he just came in and still probably behind his back, they still probably had something derogatory to say about him. Because let's just be honest. Money is green and they're going to do business with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when they walk away, you're still whatever it is that, if they're racist, you're still whatever it is that they have in their head of who you are. They could care less.
Right.
So when he's saying little things like this is what I'm saying. These things affect him, affect his children.
Right.
And it's obvious his biggest thing is to change the world for his kids. And like I said, with her, I don't know if she has children, but when you're a parent, you do start looking at things totally different.
Right.
Totally different. Like I said, I know when he was talking about the medication, for the children to live past 3, that touched me because I'm a mom. It may not have touched her because she's maybe not a mom. I don't know. But that was big. That's something I remember about him. When we're done with this, I'm going to remember that about him because I'm a mom. That touched me.
I actually understand what he's saying about, because like I said, I didn't care anything about our government. I had so much going on as a damn teenager growing up where I was and in the community that I was, that none of that shit made any sense to me or any point to me. And I was a teenage mom, so my head was somewhere else. But what he's saying is true. making them understand that this is your duty as an American. This is a part of it. Learn this, understand it. Because if we can give this test to immigrants and say, you have to learn this to be here, how the fuck wouldn't we know? And if you ask, majority of the kids can't name all states, can't name all 50 fucking states.
No, I see where he's going with that. I mean, it goes back to what he was saying. Give them something to be proud of.
Right.
The more knowledge they know about the country they live in, the more they would feel proud of. And it's true. I mean, even me, as I'm 45 years old, there's a lot of shit I don't know about this damn country. I'm sure I would not pass that test.
Right.
But I'm sure his mama and his dad did.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's true. I agree with him. And I mean, it is what it is. Some people may not agree with me, but I agree. How can you say that this person should know this, but it's okay for them because they were born here? Of anything, they should be the ones who know it the most. Because they actually were born here. This is a part of them. Of anything, they should know the answers to these questions. Not the immigrants. They got to learn this. We should already know this. And it's sad because, like I said, I know I wouldn't pass that.
Right. And I think there's a lot more positive stuff about this country versus just always concentrating on the negative shit that's happened in this country. We could sit here and go on and on and on about the negative stuff. And just like a lot of people don't want to realize that even though, yes, slavery was, 200 years or whatever, that you got to break that down through generation. You have to get that slave mind out of the generations. People don't realize that. You're still a slave in your mind. You just don't see it. And it's not because the white man, still have you enslaved. You've enslaved yourself over time. And so now the trick is reprogramming a whole community, going through the DNA. We know how that shit goes down. So it's just like, no, like there's been progress. It might not be perfect because who says this shit is fucking perfect? Mm-hmm. It's not even perfect amongst communities. If you go to the Black community, everybody's not all loving and beautiful. Mm-hmm. Just like the Hispanic community, our community is not all loving and beautiful, you know. But if you look at a white community, it's way more together than we are. If you look at a Jewish community, them motherfuckers is way more together than we are. And that's my problem with it. It's always, let's point the finger, let's talk to somebody else, but we don't go inward. We don't hold ourselves accountable as a community and say, hey, why are we?
Maybe we can learn something. You know what I mean? I mean, if it's been successful for them, maybe we can learn something. Let's make it beneficial to us. Let's take their way and make it ours. I mean, we all know they done took many of things and claimed it as theirs, but I mean, let's just be honest. If we're gonna do something, let's mimic the positive things. And bring it to our community so then we can be successful as a whole, as a community. Like, I don't know. It's sad.
You go in a white community in the daytime, you'll see women with strollers and shit, jogging and rolling with their dogs and shit. Go to a Black community. Do you see that? Do you see that happening? No, because there's no fucking togetherness. And I don't care how fake or phony they are. People could say what they want to say around white people, but they actually are clueless in there because that's what they're raised in. They're raised with a more community, a more togetherness, barbecues and all that shit. And then when you look at our communities, we come together certain times, but it's not a together. It's not really looking out for each other. I think there was that at some point, but all of that shit's been broken down. So it's great to say, oh yeah, fuck you, we don't want you to be the president, but it's like he's actually got some good points that if you looked at it, maybe it would change. Maybe it would change the next generation to give a fuck. Maybe it would give them a reason to even give a fuck.
No, that's kind of where I'm at, because like we all know, we all seen it. What we've been doing for the last 20 years has not been working for us. We're just digging a deeper and deeper and deeper hole.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, trying something different, the fact that he is younger, his way of thinking is different than the way of thinking of a 70-year-old when you make him president.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, and the things that he's saying, and even coming from a brown person, he sees things in a different way. Even coming from someone not here. He was born here, but his parents were. So even coming from that, his way of thinking of that is to me more beneficial to our community.
Yeah. People don't want to see that though. It's all like, nope, somebody else's fault. It's like, fucking A.
Our differences, and then we actually find unity that way. That's actually what I think unites the country, not creating this culture of hush hush, right? Say one thing in public and a different thing in private. And I do reject Don Lemon's premise. What did he tell me on set? He said, you can disagree with me when you have black skin and you've lived in this country, whatever ethnicity you are.
But
explain
sir,
it to me.
I
just reject
did
that.
not,
I think we should.
Sir, let's just use a real example of just what everybody said. You said, people can have difference of opinion. They can have, you want to unite people. I gave you a difference of opinion as a veteran, and you came back and said that I was personally attacking you. And that is a way of gaslighting and basically, trying to set the idea that I was against you when I just had. That's the statement you made. And what I'm saying is, instead of us just having the debate, because see, I didn't talk about colors, which you probably expected when you came in here.
I did not.
Well, that's fine. I didn't talk about color. I didn't get all emotional about your vision, because I really wanted to just talk about what you've done in service, because you yourself has raised service as the number one thing that what people need to do in order to participate in the country that my ancestors built. And you said that I personally attacked you. So just to give you some advice, if you're going to say, hey, let's have difference of opinion, let's be able to discuss.
I loved everything you did. I loved the whole thing.
Because I had a question that it was a personal attack. Because
it was. I don't think a question. I think this is great, because you know what I said. What's the job?
Did you say personal attack?
What's the job? Everybody needs to know who a candidate is and what they stand for. That's the candidate's job. Whether you vote for them or not, that's your choice.
Did you say I personally attacked you, or did I hear it wrong? I just want to make sure.
I did not say you personally attacked me. No, I said we have actual. Good. I wanted to know whether or not we were actually able to. You said sit around for 20 years. I said I didn't sit around for 20 years, but that's okay. I think that, you know what? If somebody's running for U.S. president, I want to say this.
Well, you did.
Can't handle the heat, you stay out of the kitchen. So we'll come in.
We can keep going with the personal attacks. You did say personal attacks, though. So let's be honest. Remember, that's your number one thing, being honest.
And I know you. I agree with you. I know you have to go, but I do disagree on what you said about affirmative action, because I feel like without that legislation, I don't think black people stand a chance. We had to create the legislation to even have a chance. And I don't know why you have faith that without that legislation, things will be fair or on equal footing for black people.
I think that most people who benefit from affirmative action are the immigrants who came after Kennedy's immigration reform in the 60s. They are not descendants of slaves. They are people who came as immigrants like my parents did. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it is a broken system to say that you look like someone to whom a bad thing once happened, and you're going to be favored over someone who looks like someone who once did a bad thing.
Your parents would have gotten the same shot without that legislation?
I mean, so it turns out that Asian Americans, Indian Americans don't benefit
take away
from.
That benefited your parents, which directly benefited you.
See, here's what I'm saying is whether or not it's in our past, the question is, how do we actually move forward as one nation? And I do not believe it is with race-based quotas. I believe it is economically empowering all Americans.
I think that legislation was put here to protect people that look like me, people that look like you. And I think you're ridiculous to want to get rid of.
Here's what I would say is Lyndon Johnson's Great Society that this was part of, right? So affirmative action was part of it. There was a broader set of policies designed to help Black Americans, I think have been disastrous for Black Americans and all Americans.
Well, sir, it wasn't disastrous for you. And what Charlamagne is saying is your parents benefited from it.
They did not. I mean, as a point of fact, that's false. Indian Americans do not benefit from affirmative action.
No, that's not as a point of fact. No, that's not as a point of fact, because without the liberties that Black folks have fought for, which has basically immigrants have been able to prosper in this country because of that. But we're not going to go there. Let's just say they benefited from being able to have the freedoms that Black people fought for. That's the bottom line. And then in turn, it benefited you. And then your answer a moment ago was, well, let's not talk about stuff in our past. See, once it benefited you, you were able, you moved on.
I want to be honest with you. You guys want to get real. Let's get real. My parents were.
That's why the heart of a service. No, sir. Because the Black people hadn't fought.
Yeah, we got to get real. My grandparents lived in a colonial society. Britain colonized where my grandparents lived as well. But I think that I don't do well by seeing myself as a victim of the white man, because actually Great Britain happened to have colonized where my grandparents were actually colonized.
That's moving the goalposts. We talk about what benefited your parents when they got here.
That's right.
What benefited all of us is the fact that we have a free country, where anybody is free to achieve what they want. I don't know they came to this country with not a lot of money. What benefited them was hard work and dedication. My dad faced layoffs when he was growing up at GE. Right. He went to law school at night to be able to keep his job. What did that teach me?
Affirmative action benefited him?
I don't think affirmative action benefited him. Absolutely not. I think
this is my problem with this shit. This is my problem with this.
But that's what I'm saying. This is why I'm saying he can speak from this. He's seen his parents go through this. And like I said, it goes back to sacrificing. It's not about, it's what you're willing to sacrifice. His father was willing to sacrifice those things to make sure that why he came to this country was for those opportunities, to make those opportunities happen for his son.
That people in this country take for granted.
Exactly.
That work a whole job, that went to fucking law school at night. You guys think that's easy?
To give him the opportunity for him to go to the college he got himself into. Because now they're like, oh, did you think you? No, I'm sure he worked hard for him like that, volunteering in high school and doing the things he had to do in order to get accepted to the college he wanted to go to. You know, it goes back to the same thing though. We can never move forward if we're still stuck in the past. It's just plain and simple. If we keep still talking about the past, we're never going to be able to move forward at all. As a race, as a community, nothing. We have to move forward. We know what happened, and it's sad, and it's going to always be tragic.
Right.
You understand? But now, how do we move forward so this don't happen again? How do we prevent this shit from happening again? Because if we didn't learn from nothing, this shit can happen again.
It's not by keeping these things in place that actually hinder a whole fucking culture. And I like listening to her is like, because that whole like black people fought for freedom. This country was built where immigrants came over here. This country was built on fucking immigrants. One. So I can't stand when we really say that, go back to your country, because this wasn't our country.
Exactly. No, it's
this
true.
whole shit is founded on immigrants. If you ain't Native American, your ass can't claim this shit as home. Like really, your people home. I don't give a fuck if you got 5 generations here. You can't really claim this shit at home because this wasn't our home. It was colonized. And most people coming from other countries, the reasons why they left is because they went through a similar shit, oppression. The one thing that a lot of Black Americans think is that they're the only ones that went through slavery. They're the only ones that had slavery. There's been slavery for fucking eons. Eons. Slavery has existed, and people have been being sold in large quantities for years, you know. So this is not something that was new. And yeah, it may have been the way it was in the US. Yes, it may have been tragic the way it was in the US, and it's very unfortunate that it happened, but it was a thing. That's how it was. And then life just happens, you know. But to sit and same thing, get stuck in it, like most people today, the ones that were maybe slaves, that were kids on a plantation, are all dying off. So all of the generations later are still alive. You guys can't keep claiming that this is what it is. At some point, we have to say, okay, enough is enough. Let's change this, because you do have opportunities in this country. You just don't take them. You don't put money back into your own community. You don't you don't clean your own communities up. You don't fucking put money into the Boys and Girls Club on the corner. You're not paying for their membership at the YMCA. You know what I mean? Like if you do, you get
it's true. You see it every day with these celebrities, these rappers, these basketball players, these athletes. They, like you said, they get the money, they move out of the community. They do not come back.
Right.
They do not come back and build a housing complex. No. They don't come back and build, like you said, a Boys and Girls Club, a community center, maybe a handful. But there are way more than a handful of successful Black and brown people that can be put in where homelessness is so high in our communities that don't make no sense. But they do. They'll have 2-3 mansions, but you can't turn one of the mansions into a housing complex.
So when you got this money, why didn't you buy up the block? Why didn't you start buying buildings, redoing those buildings, and refurbishing and reconnecting?
But you could buy multiple $1 million homes.
Thank you.
You know, with $1 million, you can build a housing complex. You can house 40, 50 families, $1 million, but you have multiple $1 million homes.
Right. And I don't see them talking to these rappers and shit when they on this show about what are they doing for their communities, where their money go, why they ain't did this, that, and the third, and change these communities.
She's such a narcissist. She gives me narcissist vibes. I swear, like, I don't know her, but I don't want to know her. I don't want to know nothing about her. She is like, her energy is just so bad. And it goes back to, and we're going to go deep on our spiritual shit. Some self-love, shit she got going on, because there's no way you can be feeling so big about yourself by tearing down somebody else. And she has been tearing him down since he's been there.
Right. And
everything he said, she has been attacking him. Yes. So and that comes from you trying to tear him down to build yourself up. And that's sad. She really needs to look into some deeper shit with her. Like, whatever.
Yeah. And it's sad. You can't sit there and keep talking shit about the next person and they're like he's not a part of, was born here. Like, even though our country's been a certain way, you can't tell me this ain't my country. I was fucking born here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fucking American. Okay. So this whole thing, like, my people built this thing, that's bullshit. Because there's a lot of immigrants that came and built this motherfucking country. And it wasn't African American.
And continues to build it. They continue to make this country work. This country is it goes by from a lot of them. Even with him, though, I mean, his sacrifice of his dad, he didn't have his dad at night at home, which I'm sure he would have preferred to have his dad tuck him in. But no, his dad was at school, because those were the sacrifices that his parents chose to do to make sure their children had, you know what I mean? So it's like they're coming at him when at the end of the day, to me, like I said from the beginning, I think he can relate. To me, he can relate more to us than I think anybody else would be able to relate.
Right? Because you can't tell me he had a 2-parent home with his dad at work and at law school.
Exactly.
Or, law school is years. That's not 1 to 2 years. That's 4 to 5. I think it's like 6 or 7 years. Or
yeah, it is. It's real long. Like, yeah,
that's not a couple of years. So they did sacrifice to have the American dream, but they put the work in to have that American dream, to give him a better life. And that's what everybody should be doing for their children. And me and my daughter were talking about this because we were watching someone else that was saying, he was from another country, and he was actually saying that Americans are one of the most privileged people in the countries, because it was like somebody in America can get a welfare check for like $600, $700, the average welfare check, right? And he was like, most countries don't even have welfare. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we are so fucking privileged over here. We don't even see that.
And don't even know it. Yes.
That we have shit that it's like you could get food stamps and your government check. And most countries don't even have that shit. Have fucking programs like that. Your ass gonna be working. And it's crazy to me that we'll still sit here and act like we don't have nothing. We can't do shit. We can't make nothing. And when you look at, most people don't even want to fucking work. They lazy as hell.
Mm-hmm. They don't even want to put that effort. It all about it, because it goes back to even with him. He did what his parents sacrificed. He became successful. He's doing this is obviously what he wants to do. You know what I mean? And again, he had same opportunities because he was born here. Everybody chooses to go a different route. Again, like I said, I'm not knocking her, no shades over her being a disc jockey or whatever it is she is, but don't knock him for him achieving the things he achieved. Like, I don't know. It's just that. And then she tries to do I didn't bring up race. She didn't have to bring up race. Your energy told it all. And until people can accept that, like, just because I don't call you a hoe don't mean I ain't looking at you like a hoe. You know what I mean?
I mean, you kept saying how your ancestors, I think you were very clear about how you feel about race.
You know what I mean? Just because she didn't say anything about him being Indian or whatever it is, doesn't mean that we did not feel it, did not, or even just imagine we're on this side. Imagine the energy he felt in the room.
Right. And especially with the other two that ain't really saying shit. They just sitting back
Exactly.
like it's okay.
That's co-signing the shit she's saying.
I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. They wrong for that. They're wrong for that because you guys are just tearing this man down and talking shit and making it seem like, again, you don't got to agree with it, but you don't have to tear him down as a person, because you actually see that he is more family oriented because of the shit that he's gone through. So his mindset is about bringing families back together. And I like candidates like that, because now in this day, back in the day, there was a time where probably his parents were still in a time, because he's 37. So his parents were probably still in a time where mom could probably stay home where she didn't have to work. I don't know. He hasn't said it, but she probably might have been able to stay home on the salary and just dad was handling business, right? Nowadays, you can't even fucking do that. So in this society, no matter what, mom and dad got to go to school and work if that's what's happening. One can't quit their job. So I think we need people who give a fuck about families, that need to restructure shit to be able, maybe mom or dad can stay home while the other one is doing what they need to do, and bring that two-parent home back together. You would think that more Black communities would want two-parent homes back together versus having the struggle fucking single mom or the dad in jail or all this other shit that's going on. Why wouldn't we want that? Why wouldn't we want to focus on families and community? But again, we don't have that in the community. It is in the community.
And it goes back to a person's skin color, which doesn't matter, because it's obvious like I said, his parents sacrificed things. Him as a child, again, like I said, he probably sacrificed having his dad being there at night. And you would say, oh, well, he's Black, so he will understand more. That he may have grew up with both his parents in a home where they didn't sacrifice much. You know what I mean? To me, people are quick to put a color on something. So where he may be able to relate to our situation way more than maybe someone our color would be able to relate to. You know what I mean? People are quick to do it because of a skin color or a race. When at the end of the day, to me, I see him talking to me, I think he relates more to our community than I have seen in any other candidate. You know what I mean? Because, like even when Obama was in office, we all know Obama's mom was white. You know what I mean? We all know he was raised pretty well. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he would never have been able to understand what it was maybe for your kid's dad or my kid's dad. But they were all three Black. You understand? But they all three was not raised the same. But they, people tend to have a thing to say, oh, well, if you're Black, then you will understand. You can't say that because you don't know how they were raised.
Yeah, I always say that to when people start throwing the race card in a conversation, because I'm like, I'm mixed. I'm more Hispanic than anything, but I'm mixed. I came out lighter. We lived in predominantly Black neighborhoods. And so me and my brother experienced the opposite. We were targeted because we were the little white kids on the block. So, my brother was bullied all, in his middle school years, up until the point where he just didn't even want to go to school. And I was constantly, I got labeled as this fighter, and I would be like, you guys think I like to fight? I didn't like to fight. I was like, I either fight or I fucking get my ass whooped or get jumped. So I'm gonna have to fight. I got to prove myself. And I constantly had to prove myself in a neighborhood where I shouldn't. I never felt safe. I always got targeted. And so it's crazy that I'll sit in front of someone who will sit here and talk about all this racism and being targeted and all this shit. And I'm like, you don't see what you do to other people though. You do this, and this is done from kids. This is done from kids, because this wasn't a thing until I got to middle school. As soon as I got to middle school, that's when it really changed. And all of a sudden, the race shit, and you had groups, and you had cliques, and you had color, and all of a sudden, everybody was in. You went to your race, and it was just a big change when we got to middle school. And that's probably where I saw it the most. And then all of a sudden, that's where you had people that are always fighting and coming at you. And I always tell people, I'll never forget that. I will never forget that as a kid, because I wasn't welcome. I was tolerated in my community. I wasn't welcome or appreciated or celebrated in my community. No. And I wasn't raised in a Hispanic community. I was raised in a Black community. I was tolerated. And as soon as somebody saw my mom, which is way darker than me, then they were cool with me. Oh, you Black. You know what I mean? But when they first see me, I was a threat. When they first see me, it was a problem. And then you would hear shit like, oh, you should be happy because you got pretty hair, or because my hair should make me happy, but my home is fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, you would hear shit like that and be like, because my hair's straight, I have a better life than you. Y'all eating better than me. You wearing fucking Reeboks and I'm not. You know what I mean? We couldn't even afford Pro Wings, and Pro Wings was like the shittiest fucking pair of shoes you could have when I was a kid. We couldn't even afford that. Like, we would actually go at times and eat at soup kitchens, and I was like, have you ever had to do that? Have you ever had to go after school? And I knew the days when our food ran out, my dad would be waiting, and I knew that, oh, we got to go eat at the church today. So if you have not done that, if you didn't have to sit in a line with your parents getting food from a church, you weren't fucking poor. Y'all had way more. But I'm telling you, I went through all of this stuff as a kid, and I would be like, then I would see the same people sitting me talk about how they had less and they don't have opportunities and this, that, and the third. And it's like, you're programmed to think this shit. You're making your life worse than what it is. And the second somebody disciplines you, the second somebody tells you you're doing something wrong, oh, it's because I'm Black. Oh, it's because I'm Black. Maybe you're just a piece of shit. Maybe you're just late as fuck. Maybe you don't do your job.
Exactly. Maybe that's just your character. And that's the thing I always tell people, you know, they quick with the race thing. And again, like I said, every home is different. Okay, we can all have the same skin color. Doesn't mean that we all struggle the same struggle. Nope. You cannot assume that we all struggle the same struggle. So if another person my color, I can't assume that they know what I went through. I grew up in the projects, right? And I'm Puerto Rican, and I was always brought up that I was Black, and I used to go through the same thing because Black and Puerto Ricans went through it. Oh, you not Black, you Puerto Rican. Oh, you think you Black. I went through that as a kid growing up. They used to tell me all the time, I think I'm Black. And I used to tell them, no, I am Black. And they used to be like, you Puerto Rican, you ain't Black, you think you Black. Then they would see my mother, who is dark skinned, and I'll be like, oh, you're Black. She's from Puerto Rico, but okay. You know what I mean? You know, I was always brought up to know that I was Black. You know what I mean? So my thing, but always to Black people will tell me, same thing, even Puerto Ricans will tell me, oh, you think you Black. Right. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Like, you know what I mean? Did y'all forget the ancestors? Did y'all forget the mix of ancestors?
Right. You know what I mean? And I did. I had Puerto Rican friends who were very racist against Black people.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, I had friends who they would be racist. Their parents was racist toward me because of my mother being dark. And I'm like, we're Puerto Rican. We're Black. Like, you're Black. You know that, right? And she'd be like, well, I'm not Black. I'm like, you're Black.
A lot of people don't realize, even in the Hispanic community, there's racism because my mom's Cuban, but she's dark skinned Cuban. And then, you know, there's always a thing with the lighter skinned Hispanics and the darker skinned Hispanics.
Yeah.
And they walk around as if they're not Black. And it's like, y'all are African. Y'all have African descendants. You're not just Hispanic.
Trust me, they were racist against my mom. Like the white-skinned Puerto Ricans with the long, straight hair. My mom was dark-skinned with an afro. Right. You know, my mother was Puerto Rican and Dominican. So, you know what I mean? And they would call her all type of names in Spanish, but my mom spoke Spanish, you know what I mean? And she would have to check them, and she would have to say, and, you know, and they will be shocked, you know, because they will be very disrespectful saying the things they say. Or even saying things about us, you know, calling us names and things like that. Because my brothers were dark skinned. I'm light because my dad is light. But my sister's darker than me. My brothers are darker than me. Right. You know what I mean? But I again, like I said, I lived in a project. Right. You cannot assume just because you're the same color as me that we had the same lifestyle. You may have been Hispanic and lived a great lifestyle. Your mother and father probably raised you. You probably had a income home. You probably had a great. I lived in the motherfucking projects. My mother was a drug dealer. Your story and my story, we may look the same, but our story ain't the same. So don't assume that our story is the same. And I noticed that in the Black communities, they do that because you're Black and he's Black and he's Black. They all must know the struggle. No, that Black person could have been brought up in a great home. Mother, father, you cannot compare them to someone who was brought up in a single parent home. You cannot. But they would assume. And that will be the candidate that they think they want to go for because he can relate. Like I said, this guy is Indian, but to me, he can relate more to my struggle and my parents' struggle than anybody else because his parents were immigrants. You know what I mean? My parents were an immigrant. I mean, my grandmother was. My grandmother was born in Puerto Rico. My grandfather was born in Dominican Republic. He served in the army. My damn grandfather was in the war against Hitler.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we don't want to talk about who built what and who did what and who fought for what. You know what I mean? But to somebody else, it'll be like, oh, well, you're Hispanic or this, that. You know what I mean?
Right.
No, we both. If I grew up in the projects, you grew up in the projects, and somebody Black, Chinese, Indian grew up in the projects, we all know the same struggle because we all had the same struggle. We all, ducked from the bullets. We all, we all did this. It didn't matter our color. We all lived in the same community.
Right.
So our struggle was the motherfucking same. It's obviously none of our parents could afford to not live in the projects.
Right.
Doesn't matter what color we was.
Right. It sucks that that's the main go-to. And it's like, until you actually talk to somebody, you don't know what they've been through. You don't know where they've come through. Like when I have a conversation, I don't assume I know somebody because you say you come from here and, I just assume I know, your whole life story. It's like, you can't do that. Listen to someone, listen to their story and let them tell you, because a lot of people like to assume, and it's like, you can't look at someone and just, I know what you've been through. No, you don't.
Exactly.
You don't even know half this shit. You know that someone has been through. You're assuming
your color is different. You had a better life than me. No, you don't know that. I may have had a worse life than you. You have no clue.
Right. Yeah. I just, that's why I say I don't feel like we need affirmative action anymore. I feel like you should be off of merit. You should do everything off of merit, your job, your schooling, everything. Because I was someone, when I was in the workforce, not to say I ever want to go back to the workforce, but when I was in the workforce, I busted my ass at every job. There's not one job that I can think of. There might be one way back when that I never went to work and busted my ass. If anyone was to call my employers in the last 20 years, they're going to be like, nah, she showed up. I was in a lead position, or I was a manager, or, something like that, trainer or something, because I took my jobs very fucking seriously. One, because when you come from poverty and nothing, people look at you a certain way.
Yeah, we gotta work. We gotta work even harder. Even to this day, I tell my children to this day, I'm like, y'all are Black and Puerto Rican, right? Y'all Black. You have to work harder, because when they see you, they already assuming you probably came from a single parent, single mom. You probably did this, that, and the third, which you didn't. You haven't. You understand? But they see your appearance, they see your color, they see your hair, they see these things, that everything that they say is you have to have been lived in the projects. You have to, and my kids never. My kids were 3 when we left the projects. They never lived in the projects.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even to this day, I married their father. You know what I mean? We co-parent. They have both their parents. You understand? But to the outside world, when they come in for that job, they're assuming you're automatically, you're probably from the projects. No, they're not. So you got to work even harder. I tell them all the time, your grades have to be even, because they're assuming, they're like, they're not going to do this. So when you are in honors, when you are graduating top of your class, those are big achievements, because they already had your future that you're going to drop out. If you listen to them, that's
affirmative action doesn't change that they have to work their ass off.
Exactly.
Affirmative action doesn't change that they got to be on top. They got to make sure them grades is top to get considered. They still got to do that. So that's why I say I don't believe in affirmative action, because it doesn't help. I would rather bust my ass and get accepted versus knowing that I'm a part of that percent that you had to hire to fill a quota. Because on my documents it says Hispanic. So I don't know, I could have been a part of that percent of affirmative action that you needed to fill your Hispanic quota.
We would never know. No. We would never know.
But when I showed up, my ass put in work. So you may have said whatever you saw, but in that interview, when you got in front of me, I made you want to hire me. And when you hired me, I came to fucking work and work. And you were like, damn, all right. We
right. When you got that promotion, you earned that promotion.
Yes. And I was going to say, as a woman too, I knew that I had to show up even harder, and be like, I'm here, I'm doing my thing. And I think that's what a lot of people forget. It's like, no, you need to still show up. This affirmative action only helps lazy ass fucking people, if you ask me. Because a lot of places can't fucking fire you unless you really do some dumb shit. But I know I used to run circles around motherfuckers and be like, why are you guys still here? Like, why are you still have a job? Like, why are you still employed? You do the bare minimum, if that, and you still have a fucking job. And some of them weren't just Black. They were other ethnic groups. And it would be like, why are you even here? Like, so y'all look, and I know some of y'all gonna have a problem. It's okay. Put your comment down there. Say your piece. You don't gotta agree with us.
That's the point. That's the point of our show. Y'all ain't gotta agree. Y'all can disagree, and it's okay. Just be respectful. That's all we ask is be respectful. You don't got to agree with anything we say. Just be respectful. The same respect you will want me to give you, I expect anybody to give us the same respect. It's about respect.
That part. All right.
I think hard work and dedication benefited him. And that's part of what I want to share with all Americans. I want to make this the country where no matter who you are and what your skin color is, you get ahead with your own hard work and commitment and dedication. That you get ahead not on the color of your skin, but the content of your character.
He has to go, guys.
And that's what I want for America.
One more thing. You told a voter that you were open to ending foreign aid to Israel. Then it was reported that it was a misunderstanding. What happened with that?
Yeah, it was that was a false reporting, actually. So I think
you never said that.
No, I did not. I said that I was open to actually a broad strategy of disengagement from the Middle East. My general view is we fought a lot of pointless wars for a very long time. Ukraine's the pointless war of the moment. And I think that the United States needs to disengage from parts of the world if it does not advance American interests. China's the top threat that we face, and we actually need to prioritize that in our foreign policy.
All right. Well, we appreciate you for joining us.
I appreciate you guys having me.
How do I say? I don't want to say your name right.
Huh?
Do you mean that?
I do mean that, actually, because we don't do this enough, right?
Yeah.
So I do mean that. And I will come back if you guys will have me when I'm in New York City.
Of course.
Because to your point, the Republican debates will be way worse.
It's not real. I mean, we got to get real with each other.
I can definitely tell you, Chris is going to ask about your background, so might want to start volunteering on your free time.
I don't believe in virtue signaling. I am who I am. I'm an open book. We're all imperfect human beings. We're an imperfect country. We aspire to be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, that's not virtual signaling, sir. That's just a question, and you need to aspire to do something other than something that benefits yourself. That's all. If you want to say you're going to serve the country, the president is a service role. It's not running a business. So
here's the positive I'll give you. I think your message is powerful for young Americans across this country to hear. And that's what
my message is right for you.
That's actually what I'm going to take from this.
No, my message is for you, because you're saying that people need to reach a certain level of service to be able to vote in the country that my ancestors fought and died for. So my message is not for you. See, I don't do visionary messages. I do direct, straight shot. The host of Straight Shot, No Chaser. My message for you is, if you're going to require people to be a certain age to vote, you should have been able to meet that. My message for you is, if you're going to say that if you can't do that, if you can't pass the test, then you need to be able to provide service to your country. You should have been able to provide service. My message to you
is, if you disagree with me, you don't have to vote for me, but I respect your view, and we need to actually have a country where we need to have this debate in a way that doesn't personalize it.
That's all. I just wanted to point out the discrepancies on your platform versus what you've actually done, because
what
that
do
does
I want
matter.
for the country is, I grew up in this country, and I want to actually lead the next generation to be proud. Well, I appreciate you wishing that for me. And I'm in this because I actually want to give back to a country that, yes, has allowed me to succeed in it. And I want to make sure that the next generation of Americans lives that same dream. Thank you very much.
And as a veteran, I want you to be a leader, and I want you to serve this country before you tell everybody else they got to serve it. That's all. We just have a difference of opinion.
I appreciate your opinion. Thank you.
All right, you guys, thank you for watching. Once again, we will see you on the next one. This is Real Talk Corner. I am your host, Ariana, the Quantum Healer, and my co-host, Sabrina Williams, in the building. You guys stay safe. Drop us a comment because we want to know what the fuck you think about this ridiculousness shit that we were watching today. Bye.